Friends, in this video, we are going to talk about constructivism and its educational implications. You all know that I have been doing these videos for your own sake. I don't need to introduce myself again, but still I am Arvind Kumar Jha from School of Education, IGNOU. Well, you know, it's a very, very powerful discourse in the field of education, and it started with some theory of knowledge understanding, for example, or questions related to theory of knowledge. For example, what is knowledge? What is a knowing? How do we come to know what we know? So these were important questions that became the concern for the people who were keen to know or study about knowledge, right? So in short, if you are interested to know constructivism as a theory of learning, then I would like to say that it is a theory of learning that has roots in both philosophy and psychology. And it has a long history, and there are major theorists such as John Dewey, Piaget, Vygotsky, Bruno, Grasses, and all have contributed to this field. Now, let me coming directly to the constructivism. Constructivism suggests that individuals create their own understanding based on the interaction of what they already know, what they already believe in, and the phenomena or ideas with which they come into contact. So it is a theory of how the learner constructs knowledge from experience, which is unique to each individual. So friends, we can say that constructivism is a system of explanations of how learners as individuals adapt and refine and ultimately construct knowledge. And here learners actively restructure knowledge in highly individualized ways based on intellectual configurations on existing knowledge and formal instructional experience. One thing more here I would like to add. You know, in our traditional understanding, whether it is a behaviorism or any other ism, that it is considered that knowledge can be given or knowledge can be taken. But constructivism says knowledge can neither be given, knowledge can nor be taken. It can only be constructed, and that's why I said it is a system of explanations of not only how learners as individuals learns, but also how individuals adapt and refine and ultimately construct knowledge. Now I'll be talking about, there are variety of constructivism, right? Even in my own book, Constructivist Epistemology and Pedagogy, I have mentioned more than 12 types of constructivism. But for your sake, today in this video, I'll confine myself to social constructivism. So from the social constructivist viewpoint, it is important to take into account the background and culture of the learner throughout the learning process. And as this background also helps to shape the knowledge and truth that the learner creates, discovers, attains, and finally construct in the learning process. So we may say that constructivism acknowledges that knowledge is not fully known and fixed. It means the knowledge that you know, it is correct till today, but not necessarily that will remain correct tomorrow. And there is a real world that we experience, but many ways to structure that world. Same world we all are living, but the meaning of the same world in which we all are living will be completely different for each individual. So my world will completely be different from your world, and there is a possibility that your world will be even different from your parents, brothers, sisters, friends, and all. What I am trying to say, I am trying to say is this, that knowledge is somewhat personal. The learner plays an active role in the personal creation of knowledge through experiences. So, for any kind of creation and construction of knowledge, what are important things? Your own experiences. Why? Because, and from where you get the experiences? You get the experiences from the socio-cultural settings. So, learning is a social process in which the learner constructs meaning that is influenced by the interaction of prior knowledge and new learning events, friends. As far as the definition of constructivism is concerned, let me start with von Glaser's words, though he wrote much later, but let me start with that. Von Glaser explained that constructivism is a theory of knowing that recognizes the real world as a source of knowledge. So, where knowledge lies? Well, knowledge lies in the real world, not in a hypothetical world. It implies that reality is dependent upon the mind for its existence. Hence, knowledge is constructed by the mind rather than being a facsimile of reality. There is another thinker known as John Dewey, you must have heard his name, very powerful thinker, American thinker. He proposed that education should work with students' current understanding, taking into account their prior ideas and interest. And just now we have discussed in previous video Bruner, who defined construction learning theory is an active process in which learners construct new ideas based on what? Based upon their current or past knowledge. So, friends, we can say that the constructivism is a relatively new paradigm which takes into account the subjective, contextual and very important pluralistic nature of knowledge. So, knowledge is subjective, not objective. Knowledge is contextual and its fundamental nature is pluralistic. It maintains that individuals create or construct their own knowledge through the introduction of what they already know and experience. So, interaction between the new knowledge and the old knowledge only will help you to construct the new knowledge. So, knowledge is acquired through involvement with content instead of imitation or repetition as behaviorist theories claim. Learners actively receive knowledge, connect it to previously assimilated knowledge and make it theirs by constructing their own interpretation. So, friends, Piaget says that the learning occurs by an active construction of meaning rather than by passive recipient. So, if we are particular about what is a constructivism according to Piaget, so according to Piaget, constructivism is a system of explanations of how learners as individuals adapt and refine knowledge. So, in this view, learners actively restructure knowledge in highly individualized ways, basing fluid intellectual configurations on existing knowledge and formal instructional experiences. Further, there is another very powerful thinker and his name is Vygotsky. Friends, when Piaget was trying to say that the things are processed, knowledge is processed internally with the help of the mind which is inside the head. No, because he was a biologist basically. And other behaviorist thinkers said that, oh, mind is nothing, mind is there in the behavior. So, but particularly when Piaget almost had convinced the world that the mind is inside the head, Vygotsky, on the other hand, was not convinced by this argument. And he said, who says mind is inside the head? Where is the mind? Mind is not inside the head, but mind is out there. What do you mean by mind is out there? Mind is out there means mind belongs to the socio-cultural context. As your society, so is your mind. As your culture, so your mind. That's how you'll find our language style differs. Our speaking style differs. Our even food style differs. Our even dressing style differs. Why? Because all these things we learn from our society, from our family, from our culture background, etc., etc. So, the social view of constructivism defines that knowledge is co-constructed through social and cultural context, and this is the contribution of none other than Vygotsky. So, the teacher's role is to be a collaborator in constructing reality by engaging in open-ended inquiry that elicits and addresses student misconception. So, friends, constructivism doesn't deny even the importance of misconception. Well, so what are the major points of constructivism? As we have discussed earlier, constructivism emphasizes knowledge construction rather than reproduction or transfer of knowledge in the form of rote memory. Another major point is knowledge construction takes place in individual context and through negotiating and collaborating with the group members, and that's why it is very important in the society that you should know how to interact with fellow human beings. The learner's previous knowledge, beliefs and attitudes are considered in the knowledge construction process. So, the process of constructing knowledge involves observing relationship between the concepts and viewing things in a holistic or integrated manner. Therefore, what is learning? Learning is inquiry based and discovery based. The role of an instructional designer is what? To set up problems or project and provide mechanism to monitor, to explain and guide the direction of inquiry to the learner. Now, I will be talking about the principles of constructivism. But in addition to the things that I have just mentioned, I would like to add 2-3 things more before I talk about the principle of constructivism. You know, philosophically, constructivism believes that there is no reality which is ultimate reality. Every reality in this world is a mental construction, and you construct it on the basis of your socio-cultural orientation. As the society, so is your mind, as I said earlier. You know, even it doesn't say, but I have interpreted, even the concept of God as a reality is contingent upon human mind. And you can infer out of this, I don't want to hurt you, but if you think rationally and critically, you'll find even we have created God, not God has created us. And why I am saying this? Because every culture in this world, every society in this world has created its own concept of God. So, Arabian world created a different concept of God. Asian God, particularly in India and Hinduism, the concept of God is a completely different one. Similarly, the concept of the God in Western world, particularly in Christianity, it's a completely different. And in India, see the beauty. There are some unorthodox relations. We say, oh, God doesn't exist even, etc., etc. This is the first thing. Second thing, as I said, knowledge can neither be given nor taken, it can only be constructed. So, what is its implication? That teachers should help the students in the process of constructing knowledge. Right, friends? Well, there are many more. You cannot learn anything passively. You can learn anything when you are active. Now, I would like to mention the principles of constructivism. So, the first principle of constructivism is that the teacher is supposed to engage students with real world problems which they can explore with their interest and motivate themselves to deepen their understanding about the problem. I always make a point. If you want to explain the concept of a circle, it is better if you are teaching the concept of circle to your students and your students come from rural background. So why don't you give the example of how a well is dug up? Students need to learn cause and effect relationship in a phenomenon through inquiry-based exploration. For example, students should explore why rainbow has different colors. Students have their own views about any phenomenon, ideas or events. So, they should be given opportunities to share and exchange views from their perspective. Friends, teacher is supposed to know the cognitive abilities of the students and design the lesson accordingly to meet their cognitive abilities. As far as the assessment is concerned, assessment of a student's learning should not be based on criteria such as right or wrong, rather on focusing on what inputs still need to be provided for their success. So, the role of assessment is therefore to enhance student learning, not to identify and know how much students have learned in terms of learning outcomes. Well, let me start with John Dewey. You all know John Dewey propounded constructivism as a philosophical approach. Brunner, Piaget, Vygotsky, all these people, and that's why they are called the social constructivist thinker. Come back to Dewey. According to Dewey, education has its root in real experiences. So, you provide the example of real experiences. I am reminded of one story that there was a child and he was sitting in the class and the teacher was teaching how the White House looked like and who are the people who lives in White House and how powerful he or she is. Then the child raised the hand and said, "Ma'am, why do you teach us? Why don't you show it to us that how White House looks like?" And rest of the story you must be knowing. And if you don't know, try to search this incomplete story yourself. So Dewey said, if you have doubts about how learning happens, engage in sustained inquiry. Study, ponder, consider alternative possibilities and arrive at your belief grounded in evidence. And therefore, it emphasizes that both experiences and inquiry are the basis of constructing and acquiring knowledge. So, every experience, friends, good or bad, always remember in your life, every experience contributes to construction of one's knowledge, and further that can be experimented, verified and authenticated by using the process of inquiry. Similarly, Piaget argues that, as far as the theories of social constructivism is concerned, he argues that learners produce their own knowledge on the basis of their experiences. By implication, we can say that individuals construct their knowledge on the basis of two cognitive processes, that is, accommodation and assimilation, which emphasize creating a new structure of their existing knowledge and accommodate new information or new knowledge into it. He also said that learning is a dynamic process in which learners construct their knowledge on the basis of their own theories of the world and adapt themselves to the reality. And as I'm one of the persons of education who not only believe what Lev Vygotsky says, even I have full faith what he has said. Lev Vygotsky believed that culture is the principal determinant of cognitive process. So Vygotsky was of the opinion that in constructivism, knowledge leads to further cognitive development, and it is not possible to explain this on the basis of single idea. The societal arrangement of intelligence emphasizes that the growth of the individual is not possible without his or her interaction with societal and cultural settings. He also said that for intellectual development, social and practical activities are required. Cognitive development is what? Cognitive development is the product of dynamic relation between the individual and the society. So there is a mutual relation between individual and society, and it has its impact on both individual and society. Social interaction influences cognitive development by creating cognitive structures and thinking processes. Let us try to understand the principles of constructivism as per Vygotsky's ideas of constructivism. There are 4 principles of Vygotsky, friends. First, children construct their own knowledge. Second, acquisition of knowledge cannot take place without social context. Third, learning is mediated. And fourth, language plays a central role in cognitive development. Let me talk about the first principle, that is, children construct their own knowledge. It is rightly said that knowledge is not transferred passively. I have emphasized it enough, friends, but it is personally constructed by the individual. It means that for transfer of knowledge, some medium is necessary on the basis of which knowledge can be received, but every individual has his or her own way of perceiving the things, and as per his or her perception or understanding, he or she constructs his or her knowledge. Now let me talk about the acquisition of knowledge. Vygotsky says acquisition of knowledge cannot take place without social context, and it is correct to say that knowledge cannot be acquired without social context, as human being is a social being. Human being is not a social animal. Human being is a social being, and he or she lives in society by following certain rules, certain norms of the society, and learn or expand his or her knowledge by interacting with the social surroundings. COVID-19 pandemic has made us believe enough that human beings need human beings in life, and not only for its existence but for its sustenance as well, friends. Even you all will have witnessed this, realized this, experienced this, how it is difficult to remain away from your friends, away from your parents, siblings, marketplace, schools, colleges, etc., etc. Now, I'll be talking about, as Vygotsky says, the third principle, learning is mediated. Mediated learning takes place when there is an interaction between a learner and a person who is more knowledgeable and helps the learners to modify stimuli and change his or her own cognitive structure. The person can be present. He or she can be a parent, adult, grandparents, peers, and is called by Vygotsky as a more knowledgeable other. So mediation is also defined as a use of certain tools within socially organized activities. And the fourth principle is language plays a central role in cognitive development. Now you are understanding because you can understand my language. So language is the means of communication. But it is not only means of communication, friends. It's a very, very powerful means of socialization as well. So with the passage of time, it becomes the tool for cognitive development or thinking. And then there are 2 concepts from ZPD, that is zone of proximal development, which Vygotsky gave, and Vygotsky emphasized that learner begin learning from their surroundings, from people around, and from their social world. And that's why he believed that our social world is the source of all concepts, all sort of ideas, facts, skills, and attitudes. So there are three ways of learning. Number one, imitative learning, where one person tries to imitate the other. Second, instructed learning, where learners internalize the instructions of the teacher and use these to control their learning. And third is the collaborative learning, where a group of peers strive to understand each other and through their interactions learning occurs. Right? Well, now the another concept that Piaget has given, that is called scaffolding, means to support. So adults' role is to provide support to the younger people, right? Young children, so that he or she can grow. So Vygotsky theory suggests that students learn through contact with more capable members of a society, for example, teachers. The more capable member organizes activities so that the students participate in real activities at their own level of capabilities. So the system of support is called a scaffold. So the activity is organized so that it is within the learner's zone of proximal development. Right? So to place learning in the ZPD, an appropriate level of difficulty needs to be established, friends. And there are other things, for example, cognitive apprenticeship. Cognitive apprenticeships are situated within the social constructivist paradigm, and students work in teams on projects or problems with the close scaffolding of the instructor. And then the cognitive apprenticeships are representatives of what? They are nothing but the representatives of the ZPD, scaffolding, etc., etc., friends. Now, what are the educational implications of constructivism? See, it provides scope for reciprocal teaching in which students play the roles of teacher, and when they face difficulties, teachers helps them as a facilitator. Teachers and students collaborate among themselves in learning and practice 4 key skills: summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. Teachers' role in the teaching learning process is reduced over time. Scaffolding provided by teachers or peers helps learners to structure or arrange the learning task, or he or she works on it successfully. It provides learners scope to participate in creative activities and self-organization of ideas. It helps teaching shift from teacher-centered to learner-centered. It provides scope for new knowledge to be constructed, not only to be acquired only. It provides scope for where contradictions need to be investigated, clarified, and discussed. It also helps to discover individual intellectual capacities. And in this approach, friends, teacher monitors and flexibly guide their students to the correct answer while encouraging critical thinking. So reflection and criticalities are the key. It encourages teamwork and collaboration, right? And giving importance to this. In addition to all these things, I would like to share some more points, friends, which I think that constructivism has given to us in this world. What are those? Number one, if I am a teacher, I don't need to present anything to the students as an ultimate reality, because the knowledge that is correct today not necessarily will remain correct tomorrow. Number one. Number two, which is a very important, when it says that there is no reality which is ultimate reality, it means every individual should have freedom to create and construct his or her own reality, and accordingly he or she should strive hard to shape his career or her career. Third, which is also very important, friends, and the next point, and that is that give importance to your society. Try to understand culture. Don't make fun of any person, because culture is a culture. No culture is good, no culture is bad, right? Why a particular person is speaking different from us, there is no need to make fun of that. There is a need to celebrate that and accept that. Oh, in that culture, people speak like that. In that culture, people, dress like that. In that culture, even people think like that, because culture shapes your thinking also. Not only all these things, right? And other point is that the construction is the reality. Construction is the key. So your entire efforts should be directed towards, right, what you construct in your life. Like Biko says, a human mind can understand what human mind has constructed itself. So your entire efforts, as far as the knowledge is concerned, it should be directed towards constructing the knowledge. If you're reading Pythagoras' theorem, fine, you read it. Do try to understand it as Pythagoras conceptualized, but in the process of construction, apply your mind, your experiences, and your own socio-cultural orientation. Not only to understand any mathematical concept, even the scientific concept, even the social science concept or anything. And ultimately, friends, I would like to conclude by saying that learn to shape your life and thinking through construction. Don't accept or don't reject. As Buddha says, never accept anything until unless it satisfies your reasoning and your logic. The person may be very great, but do you think the person that says is logically valid and correct? Thank you so much.